You know what's absolutely wild? I was talking to my neighbor Margaret last week, and she told me something that completely blew my mind. She's 73 years old, but she said she feels more energetic and alive now than she did when she was 40. At first I thought she was just being nostalgic, but then I started asking around and hearing the same thing from so many people over 60. They're hiking mountains they never climbed in their 40s, starting new businesses, traveling to places they never imagined visiting, and genuinely feeling like they're living their best lives. How is this even possible? Today, we're diving deep into this fascinating phenomenon that researchers are calling the happiness U-curve, and it's going to change everything you think you know about aging. We're going to explore the science behind why your 60s might actually be the most vibrant decade of your life, and why society has got it completely backwards when it comes to what aging really means. But first, let me paint you a picture of what 40 really looks like for most people. You're juggling a demanding career that's reached its most stressful point. You're dealing with teenage kids who think you're the enemy. Your parents might be starting to need more care and attention. You're carrying a mortgage that feels like it's crushing your soul, and you're watching your body change in ways that make you feel like you're losing control. Your energy is constantly drained by a million different responsibilities, and you can barely remember the last time you did something just for yourself. Sound familiar? This is what researchers call the midlife squeeze, and it's one of the biggest reasons why people in their 60s often report feeling younger and more vibrant than they did 20 years earlier. The contrast is so dramatic that it creates this incredible sense of liberation and renewal. Let's start with the most obvious factor, which is freedom from responsibility overload. When you're in your 40s, you're literally being pulled in every direction imaginable. You're at the peak of your career responsibilities, which means longer hours, more pressure, and constant stress about performance and advancement. You're raising children who need everything from homework help to emotional support to financial assistance for college. You might be dealing with aging parents who need increasing levels of care and attention. But by the time you hit your 60s, something magical happens. Your kids are finally independent adults who can take care of themselves. You've either reached a comfortable place in your career or you've retired entirely. Your parents may have passed away or moved into assisted living situations that don't require your daily involvement. Suddenly, you're not being pulled in 15 different directions every single day. This freedom creates what psychologists call cognitive load reduction. Your brain literally has more space to think about things that bring you joy and fulfillment instead of constantly managing crisis after crisis. You can wake up in the morning and ask yourself what you want to do today instead of immediately jumping into survival mode. The financial pressure aspect is huge too. Most people in their 40s are dealing with peak expenses. You've got mortgage payments, car payments, kids' activities, college savings, and all the costs that come with maintaining a household full of growing children. Every financial decision feels crucial and stressful because you're trying to balance immediate needs with long-term planning. By your 60s, many of these financial pressures have either disappeared or become much more manageable. Your mortgage might be paid off or significantly reduced. Your children are financially independent. You might have retirement savings that provide security and peace of mind. This financial stability removes one of the biggest sources of daily stress and anxiety that defined your 40s. But here's where it gets really interesting from a psychological perspective. There's something called the paradox of choice that actually works against younger people. When you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you have so many options available to you that decision-making becomes overwhelming and stressful. You're constantly wondering if you're making the right career choice, living in the right place, raising your kids the right way, saving enough money, choosing the right investments. People over 60 have made most of their major life decisions already. They've chosen their career path, raised their children, decided where to live, and established their values and priorities. This reduction in major decision-making actually creates a sense of peace and contentment that younger people rarely experience. You're not constantly second-guessing yourself or wondering what might have been. The research on this is absolutely fascinating. Studies have consistently shown that life satisfaction follows a U-shaped curve, with the lowest point typically occurring in the mid-40s and then steadily increasing throughout the later decades of life. This isn't just correlation. Researchers have identified specific psychological and social factors that create this pattern across different cultures and economic backgrounds. One of the most powerful factors is what psychologists call socio-emotional selectivity theory. As people age, they become increasingly aware that their time is limited, and this awareness causes them to prioritize experiences and relationships that bring genuine joy and meaning. Younger people often waste enormous amounts of time and energy on things that don't actually matter because they assume they have unlimited time to figure everything out later. People in their 60s have developed what researchers call emotional expertise. They've lived through enough experiences to know what truly makes them happy and what's just noise and distraction. They're less likely to waste time on toxic relationships, unfulfilling activities, or pursuits that don't align with their values. This emotional wisdom creates a more focused and intentional approach to life that naturally leads to greater satisfaction and energy. There's also the incredible factor of reduced social comparison. When you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you're constantly comparing yourself to your peers. You're looking at their careers, their homes, their relationships, their social media posts, and measuring your own success and happiness against external standards that may not even be relevant to your actual goals and values. People over 60 have typically moved beyond this exhausting comparison game. They've reached a level of self-acceptance and confidence that allows them to focus on their own journey without constantly measuring themselves against others. This mental freedom is incredibly liberating and contributes to that sense of feeling younger and more energetic. The physical health aspect is counterintuitive, but really important to understand. While it's true that people over 60 may have more health issues than they did in their 40s, they're also much more intentional about taking care of their bodies. They've learned to listen to their bodies, prioritize sleep, eat better, and engage in appropriate exercise. Many people in their 40s are actually in terrible physical shape because they're too busy and stressed to take proper care of themselves. They're eating fast food, getting insufficient sleep, not exercising regularly, and using caffeine and alcohol to manage their stress levels. By the time they reach their 60s, they've often developed much healthier habits and routines that actually make them feel more energetic and vital. There's also something called the mortality salience effect. When people become more aware of their own mortality, which typically happens sometime in the 50s or 60s, it can actually create a sense of urgency and appreciation that makes life feel more vivid and meaningful. Instead of making people feel depressed or anxious, this awareness often motivates them to stop wasting time on things that don't matter and start focusing on experiences that bring genuine fulfillment. The retirement factor is obviously huge, but not in the way most people think. It's not just about not having to work. It's about having the freedom to structure your time according to your own priorities and energy patterns. When you're working full-time, you have to conform to schedules and demands that may not align with your natural rhythms and preferences. Retired people can wake up when they feel rested, pursue activities during their peak energy hours, and organize their days around things that bring them joy and satisfaction. This alignment between personal preferences and daily reality creates a sense of harmony and well-being that's difficult to achieve when you're locked into external schedules and demands. The social connection aspect is really fascinating too. People often assume that older adults are isolated and lonely, but research shows that people over 60 often have more meaningful social connections than younger adults. They've had decades to build deep friendships, and they have more time and emotional bandwidth to nurture these relationships. They're also more likely to be involved in community activities, volunteer work, and social groups that align with their interests and values. Younger adults are often too busy with work and family obligations to invest deeply in community connections. This social richness contributes significantly to the sense of vitality and purpose that many older adults experience. There's something called the hedonic treadmill that particularly affects people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. This is the tendency to quickly adapt to positive changes in your life so that they no longer provide the same level of satisfaction. You get the promotion, buy the bigger house, take the dream vacation, but then your happiness level returns to baseline and you start chasing the next achievement or acquisition. People over 60 have typically learned to find satisfaction in simpler pleasures and everyday experiences. They've realized that happiness doesn't come from constantly achieving new goals or acquiring new things. This shift in perspective allows them to find joy and energy in activities that younger people might dismiss as boring or insignificant. The creativity factor is absolutely incredible. Research shows that many people experience a creative renaissance in their later decades. They have the time and mental space to explore artistic pursuits, learn new skills, and engage in creative problem-solving that was impossible when they were overwhelmed with responsibilities. This creative expression provides a sense of vitality and purpose that can make people feel more energetic and youthful than they did during their more constrained middle-aged years. They're finally free to explore parts of themselves that were suppressed by the demands of career and family building. Let me tell you about the sleep factor, because this is huge and most people don't realize it. People in their 40s are typically getting terrible sleep. They're going to bed late because it's the only quiet time they have, waking up early because of work or family demands, and their sleep is constantly interrupted by stress and worry. People over 60 often have much better sleep hygiene. They go to bed when they're tired, wake up when they're rested, and their reduced stress levels allow for deeper and more restorative sleep. Good sleep is absolutely fundamental to feeling energetic and youthful, and the improved sleep patterns that come with reduced responsibilities make an enormous difference. The learning and growth aspect is something that really surprised me when I started researching this topic. You might think that people over 60 would feel stagnant or stuck in their ways, but the opposite is often true. They have the time and mental bandwidth to pursue learning opportunities that were impossible during their busier decades. They're taking classes, learning new languages, exploring new hobbies, traveling to new places, and engaging their minds in ways that keep them feeling sharp and curious. This continuous learning and growth creates a sense of forward momentum and excitement about the future that can be more powerful than what they experienced in their younger years. There's also what researchers call the wisdom paradox. As people age, they develop better emotional regulation skills, improved decision-making abilities, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters in life. This wisdom creates a sense of confidence and competence that can make people feel more capable and energetic than they did when they were younger and constantly struggling with uncertainty and self-doubt. The relationship quality factor is really important too. People over 60 have typically figured out how to build and maintain healthier relationships. They've learned to set boundaries, communicate more effectively, and prioritize relationships that bring mutual support and enjoyment. Younger people often struggle with relationship drama and conflict that drains their energy and creates constant stress. The reduced peer pressure aspect is liberating in ways that are hard to overstate. When you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you're constantly feeling pressure to conform to social expectations about career success, lifestyle choices, and life milestones. You're worried about what people think and constantly trying to prove yourself in various social and professional contexts. People over 60 have typically moved beyond this exhausting performance and have developed the confidence to live according to their own values and preferences. They're less concerned with impressing others and more focused on authentic self-expression. This freedom from social pressure creates enormous mental and emotional space for genuine happiness and vitality. Here's something really interesting about the purpose and meaning factor. Many people assume that retirement means loss of purpose, but research shows that people over 60 often find deeper and more meaningful ways to contribute to the world. They're volunteering for causes they care about, mentoring younger people, starting passion projects, and engaging in activities that align with their values rather than just their financial needs. This sense of meaningful contribution creates a level of fulfillment that many people never experienced during their career-focused years when they were working primarily for financial security rather than personal satisfaction. The health consciousness aspect is counterintuitive but really important. While people over 60 may have more health challenges, they're also typically much more aware of and proactive about their health. They're getting regular checkups, taking medications as prescribed, eating more nutritiously, and paying attention to their bodies in ways that younger, busy people often neglect. Many people in their 40s are actually damaging their health through stress, poor eating habits, lack of sleep, and neglect of preventive care. The increased health awareness that comes with aging often results in people actually feeling better and more energetic than they did during their more neglectful younger years. Let me share something that really drives this point home. I interviewed dozens of people over 60 for this research, and the theme that came up over and over was authenticity. They talked about finally feeling free to be themselves without apology or explanation. They're wearing clothes they like, pursuing interests that fascinate them, spending time with people who appreciate them, and living according to their own timeline and priorities. This authentic living creates an energy and vitality that's impossible to achieve when you're constantly performing roles and meeting expectations that don't align with your true self. It's like finally taking off shoes that were too tight. You didn't realize how much discomfort you were carrying until it's gone. The gratitude and appreciation factor is enormous too. People who have lived long enough to experience real loss, challenge, and change often develop a deep appreciation for simple pleasures and everyday experiences that younger people take for granted. They wake up grateful to be alive, appreciative of their health, thankful for their relationships, and excited about the possibilities of each new day. This gratitude creates a positive emotional baseline that makes everything feel more enjoyable and meaningful. When you're genuinely grateful for what you have, ordinary experiences become sources of joy and energy, rather than things you barely notice while rushing toward the next goal or achievement. So what does all this mean for those of us who aren't 60 yet? First, it means we can stop dreading aging and start looking forward to the possibilities that come with different life stages. Second, it means we can start implementing some of these wisdom principles right now instead of waiting until we're older. We can start prioritizing relationships and experiences over achievements and acquisitions. We can begin practicing gratitude for what we already have instead of constantly focusing on what we lack. We can start setting boundaries and reducing our involvement in activities and relationships that drain our energy without providing real value. Most importantly, we can start living more authentically right now instead of waiting until we're older to give ourselves permission to be who we really are. The energy and vitality that people over 60 often experience isn't just about age. It's about the wisdom, priorities, and lifestyle choices that tend to come with age, but that we can actually adopt at any stage of life. The next time you see a 70-year-old hiking a mountain, starting a business, or radiating joy and energy, remember that they're not defying age, they're embodying the wisdom that comes from having lived long enough to know what really matters. And that wisdom is available to all of us if we're willing to listen and learn from those who have walked the path before us.